only once ventured to perform a similar journey, which took several hours' hard travelling, and more by good luck than any other thing arrived with whole bones at my destination. I could not help laughing at the frequent exclamation of the teamster, a shrewd Yorkshire lad, "Oh, if I had but the driving of his Excellency the Governor along this road, how I would make the old horse trot over the stumps and stones, till he should cry out again! I warrant he'd do summut to mend them before he came along them again." Unfortunately it is not a statute road on this side of the river, and has been cut by the settlers for their own convenience, so that I fear nothing will be done to improve it, unless it is by the inhabitants themselves. We hope soon to have a market for our grain nearer at hand than Peterborough. A grist mill has just been raised at the new village that is springing up. This will prove a great comfort to us. We have at present to fetch flour up at a great expense through bad roads, and the loss of time to those that are obliged to send wheat to the town to be ground is a serious evil. This will soon be remedied, to the joy of the whole neighbourhood. You do not know how important these improvements are, and what effect they have in raising the spirits of the emigrant, besides enhancing the value of his property in no trifling degree. We have already experienced the benefit of being near the saw mill, as it not only enables us to build at a smaller expense, but enables us to exchange logs for sawn lumber. The great pine trees, which, under other circumstances, would be an encumbrance and drawback to clearing the land, prove a most profitable crop when cleared off in the form of saw logs, which is easily done where they are near the water. The logs are sawn to a certain length, and dragged by oxen during the winter, when the ground is hard, to the lake's edge. When the ice breaks up, the logs float down with the current, and enter the mill race. I have seen the lake opposite to our windows covered with these floating timbers, voyaging down to the saw mill. How valuable would the great oaks and gigantic pines be on an estate in England, while here they are as little thought of as saplings would be at home! Some years hence the timbers that are now burned up will be regretted, yet it is impossible to preserve them; they would prove a great encumbrance to the farmer. The oaks are desirable for splitting, as they make the most durable fences. Pine, cedar, and white ash are also used for rail cuts. Maple and dry beech are the best sorts of wood for fires. White ash burns well. In making lye for soap, care is taken to use none but the ashes of hard wood, as oak, ash, maple, beech. Any of the resinous trees are bad for the purpose, and the lye will not mingle with the fat. In boiling, to the great mortification of the uninitiated soap boiler, who, by being made acquainted with this simple fact, might have been spared much useless trouble and waste of material after months of careful saving. An American settler's wife told me this, and bade me be careful not to make use of any of the pine wood ashes in running the lye. And here I must observe, that of all the people the Yankees, as they are termed, are the most industrious and ingenious. They are never at a loss for an expedient. If one thing fails them, they adopt another, with a quickness of thought that surprises me, while to them it seems only a matter of course. They seem to possess a sort of innate presence of mind, and, instead of wasting their energies in words, they act. The old settlers that have been long among them seem to acquire the same sort of habits, insomuch that it is difficult to distinguish them. I have heard the Americans called a loquacious, boasting people. Now, as far as my limited acquaintance with them goes, I consider they are almost laconic; and if I dislike them, it is for a certain cold brevity of manner that seems to place a barrier between you and them. I was somewhat struck with a remark made by a travelling clockmaker, a native of the state of Ohio. After speaking of the superior climate of Ohio, in answer to some questions of my husband, he said he was surprised that gentlemen should prefer the Canadas, especially the bush, where for many years they must want all the comforts and luxuries of life. to the rich, highly cultivated, and fruitful state of Ohio, where land was much cheaper, both cleared and wild. To this we replied, that, in the first place, British subjects preferred the British government, and besides, they were averse to the manners of his countrymen. He candidly admitted the first objection, and in reply to the last observed, that the Americans at large ought not to be judged by the specimens to be found in the British colonies, as they were, for the most part, persons of no reputation. Many of them had fled to the Canadas to escape from debt or other disgraceful conduct, and added, "It would be hard if the English were to be judged as a nation by the convicts of Botany Bay." Now there was nothing unfair or rude in the manners of this stranger, and his defence of his nation was mild and reasonable, and such as any unprejudiced person must have respected him for. I have just been interrupted by a friend, who has called to tell me he has an opportunity of sending safe and free of expense to London or Liverpool, and that he will enclose a packet for me in the box he is packing for England. I am delighted by the intelligence, but regret that I have nothing but a few flower seeds, a specimen of Indian workmanship, and a few butterflies to send you. The latter are for Jane. I hope all will not share the fate of the last I sent. Sarah wrote me word, when they came to look for the green moth I had enclosed in a little box, nothing of his earthly remains was visible beyond a little dust and some pink feet. I have, with some difficulty, been able to procure another and finer specimen, and for fear it should meet with a similar annihilation, I will at least preserve the memory of its beauty, and give you a description of it. It is just 5 inches from wing to wing, the body the thickness of my little finger, snow white, covered with long silken hair, the legs bright red, so are the antennae, which are toothed like a comb on either side, shorter than those of butterflies, and elegantly curled. The wings, both upper and under, are of the most exquisite pale tint of green, fringed at the edges with golden colour. Each wing has a small shaded crescent of pale blue, deep red, and orange, the blue forming the centre, like a half closed eye. The lower wings elongated in deep scallop, so as to form 2 long tails, like those of the swallow tail butterfly, only a full inch in length, and deeply fringed. On the whole, this moth is the most exquisite creature I have ever seen. We have a variety of the peacock butterfly that is very rich, with innumerable eyes on the wings. The yellow swallow tail is also very common, and the black and blue admiral, and the red, white, and black admiral, with many other beautiful varieties that I cannot describe. The largest butterfly I have yet seen is a gay vermilion, marked with jet black lines that form an elegant black lace pattern over its wide wings. Then for dragon flies, we have them of every size, shape, and colour. I was particularly charmed by a pair of superb blue ones that I used to see this summer in my walk to visit my sister. They were as large as butterflies, with black gauze wings. On each pair was marked a crescent of the brightest azure blue, shaded with scarlet. The bodies of these beautiful creatures were also blue. I have seen them scarlet and black, yellow and black, copper coloured, green, and brown. The latter are great enemies to the mosquitoes and other small insects, and may be seen in vast numbers flitting around in all directions of an evening in search of prey. The fireflies must not be forgotten, for of all others they are the most remarkable. Their appearance generally precedes rain. They are often seen after dark, on mild damp evenings, sporting among the cedars at the edge of the wood, and especially near swamps, when the air is illuminated with their brilliant dancing light. Sometimes they may be seen in groups, glancing like falling stars in mid air, or descending so low as to enter your dwelling and flit about among the draperies of your bed or window curtains. The light they emit is more brilliant than that of the glowworm, but it is produced in the same manner from the under part of the body. The glowworm is also frequently seen, even as late as September on mild, warm, dewy nights. We have